anticipated it. But why? What explains that issue? Most likely it's a client-side JavaScript check or a server-side JavaScript check that is using a bad regular expression. But at least now we can check if they actually gave us something that looks like a .edu email address. But we can even do better. So in version 6 of this now, I just wanted to introduce a little library, something called jQuery. So jQuery is often conflated for JavaScript. This is a third-party library, so freely available code that other nice people have put together that's incredibly common, so much so that these days almost anyone who uses JavaScript uses jQuery because it simplifies the kinds of things we were just doing, right? Even I was getting bored verbally of saying document.forms.registration. This is very tedious, and it's not fun programming, as you might already know, when you're just typing stupid stuff all the time. So jQuery really tries to simplify the syntax and make it more concise. So how can we use jQuery? Well, notice this form of the script tag. So this is version 6 of our forms today. PDFs and code are online if you want to play along. But in the head this time, notice that I have another script. This time it's not immediately closed. Instead, it has a source attribute. And that source attribute is to this URL, jQuery latest at some URL. Let me go into my browser. And let me open a new tab and paste that in. So this is jQuery. And some of you who might be using it but might not have ever looked, this is just a whole lot of JavaScript code that, again, some really nice, smart people wrote, made freely available so that all of us can benefit. It's a lot of code they wrote from the really a lot of code they wrote. I've never actually done this. It is a big library. Oh, my God. All right, so not the point, though. The point, though, is that there's a lot of functionality built into jQuery, and you can start to do really fancy, really sexy things without having to reinvent the wheel yourself, right? You know from Facebook and from Gmail and all these popular websites that there's very popular paradigms now, little buttons that kind of glow or have grayscale effects, drop-down menus that don't look like the 1990s drop-down menus anymore, little autocomplete widgets that show you who your friends might be when you're typing in the search box. All of these features that are entirely written in JavaScript, but if they're this common, it's really nice to be able to stand on the shoulders of other people, use their widgets or their libraries, much like jQuery here. So just a quick example of how jQuery works here. Let me zoom in on my HTML. And we'll see that things like jQuery and more generally JavaScript let us write better code. Now I have here in my HTML no mention of JavaScript. Frankly, it's a little messy that we're already commingling sometimes CSS with HTML, which is a different language inside of double quotes and style attributes. Now we had introduced a moment ago all of these function calls like validate and toggle inside of our HTML. And this really kind of violates good design principles, which generally say keep your data separate from your presentation thereof. Keep your aesthetics separate from your logic. In other words, do all of the interesting coding and the computer science-like stuff in one file and relegate things like aesthetics of HTML and CSS to separate files altogether. And that's kind of what we've done here. Inside of this HTML form now is no code, is no logic. But if I scroll up here, let's see how I'm nonetheless validating users' input. So it's very important that I'm loading the jQuery library first before my own script tag, because that library has to load before my own code executes. So it is the case in web pages that URLs are loaded in the order in which they appear. And so in this case here for the script tag, this means jQuery will be available to me. All right, so what am I going to do here? Well, this is going to look a little cryptic since we've already introduced one language today. This is still JavaScript, but it is now using a library. And this is the very common paradigm. So rather than say literally document, we have to pay a slight penalty syntactically. $, open parenthesis, document, close parenthesis is essentially identical to just the keyword document from before. But there's going to be some fancier features that we get as a result. But now I'm saying this, .ready. So ready is a special function that comes with jQuery that says once the whole DOM has loaded into memory, do the following. And this is important. Just as URLs are loaded top to bottom, so are your nodes in this tree loaded top to bottom. So it's actually problematic if you start writing code that tries to check boxes or validate form fields or does anything interesting on a DOM if only the first 2 or 3 nodes have been loaded. So really, you generally want your JavaScript code only to execute once the whole web page is loaded. And that could take a split second, could take a few seconds if there's lots of flash files and video and sounds and the like. But ultimately, we want to wait till that has at least happened. Well, now what this is saying is when the whole DOM is ready, do this. Now, unfortunately, to do this, we need to create a function on the fly. And this will only scratch the surface of this feature today. But what's really nice about JavaScript, and you can do this in PHP, but it's a little nasty, the syntax for it. Function, open paren, close paren, gives you a function. But it doesn't give it a name. And in fact, when I do function, open paren, close paren, curly brace, what I'm essentially doing in all of the lines that follow, per the indentation here that implies that they're all part of this function, is I'm declaring what's called a lambda function, Lambda, or an anonymous function. And the latter name is a little more straightforward. It just means a function without a name. Because I don't care what this function's called at this point in the story. I just want a whole chunk of code to execute when the DOM is ready. So by creating this anonymous function, I am handing to the ready function an argument that's only going to be executed when the DOM is ready to do so. If I didn't wrap it in this function, just like in C and PHP, if I just start writing lines of code, they would all be executed right away, and that's bad potentially. Again, I want my whole DOM loaded into memory. So for now, even if that's a little unclear, just take on faith that this means when the DOM is ready, go ahead and call this code. That doesn't need a name because I'm only going to call it once. I don't need to call it again and again. So now notice this line, $, parentheses, quote unquote, sharp registration. So recall from CSS that you can give unique IDs to various elements in an HTML page. And if I scroll down to my form here, notice that I have a registration form. And I didn't give it a name this time. I gave it an ID. And this, again, is a very common paradigm in JavaScript and in CSS. If you want to be able to hone in directly on a specific node in the tree, you might as well give it an ID, which by nature is supposed to be unique. These are unique identifiers. And I could call it anything I want, but I called it registration because this is a registration form. Now, if I scroll back up in my code, let's see what I'm doing. Rather than have HTML and say an attribute of onSubmit, I'm now doing this programmatically. So this, again, suggests better design. It's more complex at first, but better design. So this means, in jQuery, go get the DOM node whose ID is registration. And the fact that I use the little hash symbol means go to find the ID matching registration. And then .submit is a special jQuery function that simply says when that element is submitted, call this function. And again, I don't care about the function's name. It can be anonymous. And so I just say, execute all of this code here. Now, I could go back into a previous example and just copy paste the if, else if, else if, else if from before, and it would work. But I can do a little better now. I can shorten that syntax and do it a little more elegantly, even though, again, it's going to be elegant as in the eye of the beholder today, perhaps. I'm going to first check if it is not the case that the email node's value. So this is a jQuery function. Get the value of this node. So again, sometimes this feels a little stupid. We previously would have just said .value. Now we're saying val. But so be it for now. You'll trust us that more interesting things will come from this. If it matches this regular expression, well, yell at them. If it does not match that regular expression, yell at them because they have to provide an edu email address. Similarly, if the value of password1 is quote unquote, yell at them. Else, if they're not equal, yell at them, and the like. And the takeaway here, even though this is a lot of syntax, is that now all of this code has been decoupled from the actual HTML. So just as the jQuery folks factored out all of their huge source code into a separate file called jQueryLatest.js, so could I do that. I could highlight all this as I've done, click Command X to cut it, paste it into a new file called lecture.js, and then include lecture.js with another script tag with a source attribute like this in order to actually factor out my code entirely. And so indeed, when you go to websites, and we can see this here like facebook.com, and we open up something like Firebug and click this time on its script tag, and you'll have to generally enable these things by default, you'll see all sorts of scripts that have been downloaded in the page. And I'll just glimpse just a couple of here. All throughout modern websites, you'll see either in the page itself or in included pages, script tags, and then link tags for CSS files and the like. And that's because much of the JavaScript that drives Facebook is in these external files that are either downloaded when you first visit the website or over time as you try to click on other features of the site. Well, let's look at just one seventh and final example here. This is code that I did not write. This is from jQuery's own tutorial. It's written in a slightly different version of HTML. This here is called, this is HTML4. So it's a slightly older version, and it's been cleaned up. You used to have to write crazy things like this. Not so in HTML5 anymore. This isn't the best style, frankly. This code is kind of all over the place. But let's see what it actually does. Let me pull up version 7 of this. And we'll see here that this too is using jQuery, but much better, much more compellingly than my own limited web skills. You now see here in this HTML form, one, a visual clue that these fields are required, apparently, based on the stars there. But you'll notice, too, that if I click Submit, notice what immediately happens is nothing. Nothing. David. All right, stand by. What a perfect note to end on. J Harvard, Forms, Form 7. OK. Well, now I look like an idiot in front of our special guest today. All right, so what would have happened, and stand by, can I recover from this? That is correct, jQuery latest. I'm just going to have to pretend. OK, so what you would have seen is immediately upon hitting submit, you would see, unlike as is the case on a lot of websites, you would see red text to the right of these form fields yelling at you, not in the form of this sort of annoying little pop-up menu, the thing called an alert window, but rather you would see it inline in the text. And that, too, is using JavaScript to actually manipulate the DOM. Let me see if I can simulate this by going to the actual facebook.com. Let me click sign up here. Aha. So this, too, is now JavaScript. Woo, nice save. So you must fill in all of the fields. So Facebook got this right, even though I did not. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a 2-minute break. And then in just a moment, I'll introduce our guest for today.